Good morning, everyone. My name is David Cory, and welcome to the top 10 reasons to use the EQI for coaching. Brought to you by the Emotional Intelligence Training Company and hosted by yours truly, David Cory. So let's get started. Unfortunately, we've had a human problem, but I've got a technical solution for you for this morning. What was unavoidable was I actually broke a tooth just before the weekend. Managed to get in to see my dentist, who said you got to come in and get a crown. So I said, well, if that's the only time you can see me, I guess I'll have to come up with a great solution for my webinar. And so what I've done is I've actually just recorded this webinar. So what happened was I hit play and I've taken off to my appointment. And so I just wanted to be upfront and honest about that. It wouldn't feel right to me to just play a recording for you and have you think that it was live when it's actually not. So rather than take questions this morning during the webinar, what we'll do is you can certainly email me your questions and let me know whether you want a telephone call or an email message back, and I'm so happy to answer all your questions. And I took a look at the registration list, and I'm so excited to see all of many of our former participants, friends, colleagues. It was just so great to see so many names that I recognized and that I know. And thank you so much for joining our webinars. And so many of you have been so faithful over the years, registering for the webinars, watching the recordings, telling me that you appreciate them. It really means a lot to us. So thank you. And of course, we're using Zoom, which is a great video platform. It's one we've tried many different platforms, and Zoom seems to be one of the ones that works well, that seems to work the best. So we'll press on and again start with the top 10 reasons to use the EQI in coaching. And just so you know, for those of you who aren't familiar with the EQI, with the concept of emotional intelligence is this wonderful term that's used to talk about this part of our brains and our being that often gets overlooked. We talk about many of the different ways that our brains process information, but we don't necessarily study or talk about or look at or pay much attention to these wonderful emotions that we have, and of course we absolutely want to make sure that we acknowledge emotions, that we're in touch with emotions, that we pay attention to emotions, that we use the wonderful intelligence that comes from emotions and be intelligent about that emotional information. So the measure of emotional intelligence, the first scientifically validated measure, was the emotional quotient inventory. And of course, now we have the EQI 2.0, and I will talk about when that was updated and what the update consists of in a moment. However, one of the, reason number one, I decided not to do this David Letterman style, but just to tell you 10 reasons. And it really, the order could be debated, but one of the number one reasons to use the EQI is that it is an inventory. People think it's a test, and have you tested your EQ, and what do you test out at? And it's really not about that at all. It's actually about taking an inventory or taking stock of what's there. And really, when you look at emotional intelligence, you notice that there are two parts of emotional intelligence. One part which is learned, and the other part which is probably genetically predetermined. So there is a nature and a nurture component of emotional intelligence. And one of the things that I like about the EQI is it focuses on learned competencies. So, there's not a whole lot we can do about how you were genetically predetermined. However, we can focus on what you've learned and help you to be better at whatever it is that you've learned. So this is one of the reasons. And really, it's about the idea that many of the other assessment tools that are used out there in the workplace and in the corporate world, they are focused on measuring or looking at aspects of the human being, which are not necessarily changeable. And even if they were, why would you want to? Because there's no good or bad. And so the EQI is trying to look at what you do well and what you do poorly, and really trying to understand that foundational set of competencies upon which all other higher order skills are built. So I chose the images because in the first image that you see there, you've got this child looking in the mirror, and really, rather than, again, holding up a bar and asking people, how high they can jump over it, we're really asking them to look in the mirror. Take a look at some statements, respond to those statements using a Likert type answer scale, and really, tell us about yourself. And then once we do that, then we can sit down with people and talk with them about where they are. And that's the second image that you see there. So where are you right now? Where would you like to go? Where would you like to be? And then let's talk about how you might want to get from where you are to where you want to be. What would those steps be? What would that pathway look like? What would be those developmental goals? What would be the supports or the resources that you would use to support you along your way, etc. So I think that's one of the number one reasons to use the EQI in coaching, is that it really does help to hold up a mirror for clients and then help with a roadmap. Reason number two is that it was updated in 2011 after 13 years of use. So what MHS, the publishing company, MHS Assessments out of Toronto did was they came to those of us who had been using the EQI for many years, and they said, if you could change anything about the EQI, what would you do to make it more user-friendly, to make it better for the work that you do in training and coaching and helping people? And so we all gave them our laundry lists of all the things that we would like to see different, and they addressed every single one of those issues on the list. And so, that tells me that they really care about creating a good product. They really know how to listen, and they really wanted to listen. And they came up with this wonderful tool that we have. So the reports have been updated, and there is a sample page from a sample report, and you can see that that we've got these wonderfully colored bar graphs, and the scale or the numbers that you see there are standard score numbers, and standard score numbers merely indicate that there was a normed group, and so there was an attempt at getting a representative sample of the population, and then all scores have been compared with that, and they did a great job of that as well in the update. The representative sample of the population approximates the census data, and of course you want to have a nice representation of people who are working, people who are not working, people who are in school, a representative sample of the population, and that is a wonderful thing. Okay, so we've got this great report, and you can see that this sample here, her name is Mary Middle, and Mary struggles with self-regard, and yet she says that her relationships are pretty good, and she's a very empathic person, very socially responsible person. However, her self-regard is a little bit lower, her independence is a little bit lower. And her assertiveness is a little bit lower, and so those have us concerned that Mary may, in fact, not be getting what she needs out of her work and out of her life, and is more concerned with what other people need and want. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. The question just becomes now for Mary is, how is that serving you? Is it serving you well, or is that something that you'd like to do differently? Okay, so reason number three is that using this model and gaining this kind of roadmap that you can gain rapidly accelerates the coaching process. In fact, you can go deep fast. You can get to the heart, pun intended, of your client's issues when you use the EQI for coaching. And you can see there the model that we use. Right at the center of the model is this concept of emotional intelligence, the fact that our brains process emotions and emotional information. And then you see the 15 different skills, 15 different emotional skills. Each one of these 15 things has an emotional component to it. And again, we're asking people to comment on their own competency in these areas. And some people will say that they do a great job and are doing a great job. Some people will say they're doing a great job when in fact, I wonder. And there will be clues and cues to you in interpreting the data and allow you to help to uncover what's true for your client, and have them get a really good sense of where they are with their EQ so that they can make choices. And in what we're really trying to do is we're trying to have clients come to a new awareness that they didn't have before. And when we're able to do that, then they're able to make choices. And we can't change what we're not aware of. And so again, we help them to create this greater awareness. And hopefully that helps them to make great choices about their own development and address their most important issues. So reason number 3 is about this idea that you eventually, if you're a coach and you don't use the EQI, eventually you'll have these conversations that are deep, that are personal, that are meaningful. But if you use the EQI, you can have deep, meaningful conversations with your clients in the very first meeting. And there's something really special and important and efficient and effective about that. Reason number 4 is that the EQI plays well with other assessment instruments. In fact, here are some of the most popular assessments used in the corporate world. There's the DISC, there's the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, there's Insights, and of course there are many other great tools and great instruments. And it's not that we would ever suggest that you don't use those tools, because we do think they're an important part of self-awareness. However, when you're ready to go further, when you want to go deeper, when you want to look at actual competencies, then you want something that is designed for that purpose, which the EQI is. So, it's great to know your Myers-Briggs type or your Insights type or your DISC type or whatever, but these are preferences and tendencies. Preferences and tendencies, there aren't necessarily good preferences. There's not bad preferences. There just are whatever preferences you have. And of course, it's important for you to know that and have that self-awareness for yourself, because then you'll understand when things are a greater effort than maybe they should be, or why it's difficult to connect with certain people because they have different preferences, and how to adapt for better connection and that sort of thing. But really, when it comes down to building skills and competencies, the ones you want to build are the ones that are measured by the EQI. So we say to organizations, if you've done many of the popular instruments out there, maybe you're ready to go to the next level, to take it a bit deeper, and again, it plays well with other assessment instruments. What I mean by that is that add the EQI to any of these tools, and it makes a great battery, if you will, of assessment tools. And again, you can't really have too many measures. It's just, does the measure do what you need it to do in the way that you need to do it? All right, so reason number 5 is that it was the first to market in 1997. And because it was the first to market, it enjoys certain first to market advantages. And the first to market advantages for the EQI are that it was translated into many different languages. And so, it is available in Portuguese, in Danish, German, Spanish, French, Dutch, Swedish, English, both the UK English and the US Canada English. It's available in Arabic and Mandarin. And so this is very, very helpful for your clients. If you're working with clients in other countries, if you're working with people who have English as a second language, one of the really cool things is they can take it in their language, and you can get a report in English for you, and you can get a report in their language for them. So that's a really handy feature as well. So for example, frequently when we're working in Ottawa with Canadian government employees at a senior level, they're all fluently bilingual, and so we are able to prepare their reports in French and English. Then the coach uses the one that is best for them. Um, the number two reason that first to market is good is that there are more studies based on the EQI than any other, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a subsequent slide. But another first to market advantage, there are more resources. There are more books specifically about the EQI than any other tool. So for example, there is the EQ Edge, the one that you get if you come take the certification course with us. There is the other side of smart, or the other kind of smart, Harvey Deutschendorf's wonderful book. There's Marsha Hughes's wonderful book, EQ in Action. So there are all these great books, and there are many, many more. One chapter devoted to each of the 15 competencies. You can learn a lot more about what each of them actually are and how to improve them. And finally, number four is, and this just keeps happening, the EQI is the one that many organizations end up with after having chosen another instrument. So they've gone to other instruments thinking, well, this instrument is newer, so they must have learned some things from the older instruments, and they've made a new twist on it. They've done something interesting, unique, innovative, but then they end up going back to the EQI. So it makes me smile. I think it's fantastic and it's wonderful, but it really speaks to how the EQI is so applicable for workplace performance improvement, for leadership development, and these kinds of things. So, so that's happened to me many times where organizations have come and said, listen, we've been using this other tool, but we want to see how the EQI stacks up. They take a look at them side by side and they decide that the EQI is the one they want to go with. And interestingly, some really big, leading edge organizations have recently gone and moved over to the EQI. One is Google, and Microsoft had quite a long time ago gone to the EQI, and now apparently I just heard recently that Nike and Amazon are both using the EQI. So so these are organizations that have ended their search for an emotional intelligence tool with the EQI. Reason number 6 is that MHS Assessments is the largest publisher of psychometrics in Canada. You can see that they are global. They're in 50 plus languages, in 75 countries. And now the EQI is not necessarily in 50 plus languages, but new translations are coming online all the time. So eventually they may get there. They've been around for 30 years. All of their assessment tools and their research is very rigorous. They have brilliant scientists, and so for this reason, it gives the EQI a lot of credibility. And again, just knowing that it's backed by science is a really great thing for your clients, because many of your clients are scientific organizations. They are technical organizations. They will want to see the research. They will want to know the science. And of course, we have all that. We've got great ROI documents which talk about the return on investment for investing in emotional intelligence development using the EQI with your employees. We've got the validation studies. We've got all those wonderful things. And if you're looking for any of those things and you want them to share with your clients, let us know, and we're happy to provide those. All right, reason number 7. Okay, so this is the reason where I was talking about this more studies than any other. That finding comes from this article. It's called "The Relation Between Emotional Intelligence and Job Performance: A Meta-Analysis," and they took a look at many of the research studies out there that looked at measuring emotional intelligence and workplace performance. Now, unfortunately, they did not single out the EQI as having the highest correlation between workplace performance and emotional intelligence, but they did narrow it down a bit and say that the EQI was in the grouping of emotional intelligence instruments that correlated highest with workplace performance. Now, I don't know why they did that, but in any case, they didn't single out any tool. They simply talked about them in terms of categories or groups of emotional intelligence measures. Anyway, if you want to copy this article, happy to provide that as well. Just let us know. It's very research heavy and a lot of statistical jargon. And if you like that kind of thing, we're happy to send it. Reason number 8 is that the EQI is, as I mentioned, when they updated it in 2011, I mentioned they updated it in 2011. What I may not have told you is that they have created 6 new reports, which are absolutely fantastic, and they're great for getting more specific and matching up the report type with your intentions and your purpose. And so the workplace report is the one that puts EQ into general workplace language. And what I've done is I have listed, because I know many of you are going to look at those and say, well, how much do those cost? What does it cost for me to use those? And so there you see the current 2017 wholesale pricing in Canadian dollars. And what that means is, what I mean by wholesale is that's the price to you as a certified or qualified individual. You must certify or qualify to purchase these tools directly from MHS. And to certify or qualify, you must either meet the academic requirements, and so you have to download a form from MHS's websites and fill that out. And if you have a graduate degree, you likely meet the academic requirements. And then there is the other way, which we think is the best way, because you really learn exactly how to use the EQI with all its nuances and all of its features, and that is to take the certification course. We were one of the first certification partners with MHS back in 1998, and we've been teaching the course ever since. And so we'd love to have you come and take the course with us. We offer the course on a rotating basis in major cities across the country, and we offer one every month. So the next report to come online, and these came online in rapid succession from 2011, the leadership report came, and the leadership report is a fantastic report. It puts the language of EQ into leadership language, leadership-specific language, that is. And what they did was, not only is your score compared with a representative sample of the North American population, or wherever you happen to live, whatever norm you happen to want to use, but it also compares it with a group of 220 leaders. And these 220 leaders, when they gave them the EQI, the average EQI, overall EQI score for this 220 leaders was 114. So that's almost one complete standard deviation above the mean. So these are very high scoring leaders. Then they took the top 50% of those leaders and presented their range of scores in each of the 21 scores. You have 21 scores because you have 15 subscale scores. That's the 15 competencies that we zero in on. Then you have 5 category or composite scale scores, and then you have 1 total emotional intelligence score. So you're not only compared with the representative sample of the population, but you're also compared with these 220 leaders. So that's a really neat way of looking at whether you've got what it takes to be a leader, because you may have what it takes to be effective functioning within the normal population, but how are you with a group of what appear to be very effective leaders? Where does your score fall? So there's that comparison. And then the group report is simply taking the individuals within a group or a team and aggregating their scores and putting all of their reports into one, all of their scores into one report. And that's a fantastic way to work with teams. We use it all the time. It gives it gives suggestions for development and lots of great suggestions for conversations within a team, and it's very enlightening for teams to look at their aggregate data. It doesn't single anyone out or make anyone feel uncomfortable or vulnerable. In fact, we work very hard to make sure that nobody feels vulnerable or uncomfortable in this work that we do. And so for that reason, everything is confidential. The report contents are confidential just between the coach and their client. And we really try in group settings to not, put anyone on the spot, have anyone reveal anything they don't want to reveal, etc. Then there's the higher education report. This is a fantastic report for use with post-secondary students. It's only $20, and it's really helpful for students to take a look and see how effective or maybe where they might struggle with academic success by looking at their EQ scores. So it puts all EQ scores into the language of academic success, which is really great. Now there's a Multirater report, the 360, and it is available. When you get a 360, you also always get an EQI. So the individual who's being rated, they take the EQI, and then people around them take the 360 version, and then it's all put into one report. And you can either choose the workplace or the leadership EQI report, and you can see the prices there. Reason number 9 is that, again, as I mentioned in the leadership report, there is not only have they taken EQI scores and compared them with highly effective leaders, but they've also correlated that with a model of leadership. And here's the model of leadership, and it's a great way to teach people about the leadership model. It's a great way to talk about leadership. And you can see that we've got these 4 dimensions: authenticity, coaching, insight, and innovation. And what we have done to this end, and in fact, Dr. Steven Stein, a good friend and colleague and strategic partner for almost 20 years, who is the CEO of MHS Assessments, Steve wrote a fantastic new book called The EQ Leader, where he details this model. What we've done for our part is we've created a whole leadership course around this model, and we call it the Heart and Science of Leadership. The women's course is up and running with 2 incredible facilitators, 2 women who have a great breadth of leadership experience and are great facilitators. We've run the course twice to rave reviews, and you can look for that course coming to a city near you and see our website for upcoming courses. But this leadership model in the leadership report is just a wonderful way to teach more about leadership and about the different parts that are critical and important to effective leadership. So that is reason number 8, and reason number 9 is that the emotional quotient inventory belongs to what is considered to be one of the world's leading models of EQ. Now, there are many models of EQ out there, granted, and some are excellent, and they have subtle differences, and of course, many of them have their own assessment tools. But really, if you're looking for an assessment tool for emotional intelligence, our suggestion, our recommendation is look for one that's based on one of the world's leading models. So in 1985, in fact, 1981, Reuven Bar-On started his PhD dissertation. And then in 1985, he coined the term EQ to refer to what he was measuring, which was social and emotional functioning. And he created a model of skills and competencies that are used to cope with demands and pressures. And that's the model that you see. That wonderful wheel model is the updated 2011 version. Then there is the, in chronological order, the Mayer-Salovey model came next in 1990. They theorized that, that there are four branches to how the brain processes emotions and emotional information. They are emotional perception, the use of emotions, understanding emotions, and then managing emotions. And so it's a great model, fantastic. They get an asterisk beside their name because they get credit for coining the term worldwide. And their assessment tool is called the Mayer-Salovey, and they brought in their colleague David Caruso, emotional intelligence test. All, wonderful researchers, extremely brilliant gentlemen. I had the good fortune to meet them a few times at different conferences, but it's a slightly different way of looking at emotional intelligence and certainly measuring it. So, if that's if that model appeals, then by all means take a look at it. And really, when people ask me which model should I use, I always say look at all the leading models. Decide which one makes the most sense to you, which makes the most sense for the work that you do, and go from there. The EQI makes the most sense to us. We've got all these wonderful skills that we can zero in on, and we can coach, and we can help people understand why their lower scoring areas are the way they are. We can encourage people to leverage their strengths, and in that way, we can help people to be more effective if they choose to be. And then the third leading model in the world is Daniel Goleman's model. So in 1995, Daniel Goleman wrote his now famous book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And in it, he theorized a 4-quadrant model of emotional competence, he called it, in which he's got the competencies of self and social awareness, and then self-management and relationship management. And the assessment tool there is called the Emotional and Social Competence Inventory. And it is only available as a Multirater or a 360 version, whereas the EQI is available as a self-report measure, so you can do it with individuals on their own. And it's also available as a multi-rater version where you can have an individual rate themselves and then compare their ratings with raters 360 degrees around them. And so here is a sample page from an EQ 360 report where the little letters that you see in the middle on the line are icons representing the various rater groups. And you can see that in some cases there's a lot of agreement. That's where they're clumped together. There's a lot of agreement among scores. So that is likely, a fairly accurate score for that person. But then in others, you see there are discrepancies. And when we investigate those discrepancies, it's really always interesting to discuss with individuals why they think their score is different than the way someone else sees them. Is that okay with them? Is it all right that they show up that way and that they are perceived that way by certain individuals or groups? And then if it's not, what would we do to change it? And then we work with them in coaching to change it. It's a fantastic way to go. It's a fantastic conversation. However, it's a little bit more expensive, as you saw. So it's less likely that you would use it with people at the lower levels within the organization, and much more likely you would use it with people at the upper levels within the organization. So those are the top 10 reasons. Here's an example from the leadership report of the leadership gold bars that I mentioned. And so you can see those, and you can see, let's see, there's for example, empathy, there's a score of 105. Which is good in terms of the general population, but not so good in terms of leadership. Effective leaders actually scored higher on empathy. So we would encourage this person to work on developing greater empathy skills. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Sorry I couldn't be here live, but here you got the recording. Watch for follow-up emails from us. Let us know your questions, etc., if you have them. But the follow-up email is more on how to work with us. So, it'll tell you about our upcoming EQI and EQ 360 certification courses in the major cities. It'll talk about, oh, by the way, we've got We've got some coming up real quick in Calgary and Toronto. We'd love to have you check those out and take a look at those. The next Mastering EI Competencies course, this is a one-day intensive, concentrated course that delves into the 15 competencies. It's always the third day of our cert courses. So the actual certification courses are 2 days, and we have this optional bonus day, the Mastering EI Competencies course. And then check out the Heart and Science of Leadership courses. These courses are fantastic. The women's course is up and running. The men's has yet to take flight. Hopefully sometime this fall, maybe or maybe early 2018. If you want to know how to take the EQI or the EQ360, we're happy to help you with that. And if you want a $100 off coupon for any of the above, please just let us know. There's my email address. There's our website address. Thank you for tuning in and checking into this very quick 30-minute or so presentation. And be sure to check out our other webinars where we're trying to do this at least once a month, maybe even more. And we'd love to have you join us. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm David Cory, and have a great day. Bye for now.